What's up, guys? Welcome back to Echoing Theology. I'm extremely excited, and I know I say that every episode, but just more to the point. Very blessed here to have a good friend of mine, Jen. Do you want to go by Jen or Jennifer for this?
Jen is simple enough.
Okay, Jen, and welcome to the show, Jen.
Thank you. Happy to be on here talking to you.
Great. Well, it's great to see you. I haven't I know we've talked a couple times since the retreat, but I don't think I've seen you since the retreat. So
No, I don't think you have. I mean, there'll be a random phone call once in a while where I'll be talking to you. Sometimes Jess might be there, but otherwise it's just I don't know, maybe once every couple weeks or so. It's nothing scheduled. So
no, definitely very definitely organic. And then also when your community members call, sometimes you're all there on the phone call, as is mine. So
it's a little chaotic, but it's
it
fun.
it can be, when six people are on a conversation, it's or five people. So great. Well, welcome. And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, that would be a
Yeah,
good place to start.
absolutely. So, hi, my name is Jen. I am in my first year of Echo, or just getting done with my first year of Echo. And let's see, for undergrad, I went to the University of Notre Dame. I studied applied and computational mathematics and statistics, big long name. And that was just one of the majors. I had two others. One of them was saxophone performance, so music, and the third was theology. And I come from a family of four, so I only have one sibling, an older sister. She's about 4 years older. Also went to Notre Dame. I grew up in a military family, so we moved around a lot. So when people ask, Jen, where are you from? I go, I don't know how to answer that. But I identify most with Southern Maryland because I spent the most amount of time of my childhood there. And after retiring from the Navy, my dad um, got a job in Houston. So that's where my family lives now. And actually, my parents' home parish is in Echo Parish, just Warren Key. So that's a little fun fact. Um, and right now I'm in the Diocese of Kalamazoo. I work at St. Joseph Church in Battle Creek, Michigan. That's also where our community house is. So we like to joke in our community that I have the longest commute because I got to walk the entire way. I don't have a car to take me there. Well, I actually do have a car. It just doesn't take me there. But no, it's just right across the parking lot. So that's love it. Get to save gas. Amazing. Um, and I'm active in my parish with Hispanic ministry. I'm active with young adult ministry. I work with OCIC, so it's like OCIA, which is the new term for RCIA. That letter changed a little bit ago. Um, and the C stands for children, whereas the A stands for adults. So I work with kids who are above the age of reason, who have not been baptized yet, and work with them to build the necessary knowledge and help them, give them tools to develop their faith and get to know Christ sufficiently so that at usually the Easter Vigil, they can make at least their baptism and First Communion. Um, and then confirmation depends also on the age based on how our pastor does it. So, yeah. And then, I feel like I'm missing one thing. What else am I involved in? Prison ministry. I'm also involved in prison ministry and I help out with ministry to our middle schoolers as well. So I do a little bit of this and that. It's kind of all over the place, but I kind of love it. So,
Great. Yeah. No, as I mentioned to a lot of people on here, especially with ministry and teaching and any other job, really. I mean, we wear many hats and we have our hands in a lot of different cookie jars. So, but cookies are good. Different types of
mhm.
ministry is variety is always good. And for anybody that doesn't know, the age of reason is age 7, right? So anything really above that who haven't been baptized is who you're working with in RCIC, not RCIA, right?
Mhm.
Because RCIA would be adult, or OCIC uh, would be, or A would be adults, C children. So Age of Reason, age 7 and up. Um, so actually, I did want to kind of ask you about that. Like, was prison ministry something that you asked to do, or was it something that was kind of already planned into your
It
uh,
was definitely not already planned into what my mentor had in mind for me. Um, During mentor weekend, I got to hear all about the different ministries we have, and prison ministry came up, and it just kept sticking with me. And the spirit was working on my heart about this until I got to the placement. And in the first couple of meetings where I was establishing with my mentor what it was I was going to be doing throughout the year, I still had in mind prison ministry that I at least wanted to try. So my mentor got me in touch with one of our deacon candidates. He was actually just ordained deacon 2.5 weeks ago. Um,
congratulations, Deacon.
yeah, he's awesome. That's Deacon Tony. So he is active with our evangelization team and our jail ministry. He's the main contact with the chaplain at the prison, and schedules with him and coordinates who it is that's coming in each week. So I was put in touch with him, and when he discovered that I speak plenty sufficient Spanish to administer to the Spanish population in the prison, I am now on the rotation to go into the Spanish pods, the Spanish speaking pods, and do communion services for them well, the group does it every other week is when we go into the Hispanic pods. But given that there are 3 of us who are active with the Hispanic side of things, and we rotate, it's more like every 6 weeks is whenever I go in.
Yeah.
Um, but that might change actually because I've gotten more and more comfortable with the process that jail ministry is. And so Tony might step back from doing it every single week and let me fill in and be one of the ones doing it more often, which I would love. That would be such a wonderful and blessed experience. I would love to do that. Um, but ever since I went on my first one, I immediately saw the value in it and how I mean, it's a work of mercy. It's one of the corporal works of mercy, visiting those who are in prison. And not simply visiting those who are in prison, but bringing Jesus physically to them as well in the Eucharist. That's really special to me. And so I've seen just how incredible it is and how the Lord can use the people he sends in there each week or every other week to bring about a real spiritual growth and spiritual nourishment to those who might not be able to make it to mass every single week because they are in jail. So yeah, but it touched me whenever I first went in, and so I wanted to keep doing it because I saw how good it was.
Yeah, no, that's great. There seems to be such a value in that type of ministry, and I kind of agree that with you mentioning it's corporal work of mercy, I think that's probably one of the ones towards the not bottom of like priority, but the one that we probably forget most,
Hmm.
right? Or one of the ones that we kind of neglect or forget about, or don't really realize, is a corporal work of mercy.
Hmm.
So it sounds like it's been such a blessing for you to be in that type of ministry, and certainly thankful for Echo, allowing the platform for you to be able to do that. So kind of just going off of that, like, how did you find out about Echo in the first place, and then who or what convinced you to just kind of throw your name in the pool there?
Hmm. So I first heard about Echo during my near the end of my sophomore year of college at Notre Dame, because there was a senior who lived just down the hall from me in my dorm, Pascagoula West, and her name is Camila. Such a blessed soul, love her to death. She was having a bit of a, oh no, what am I going to do type of crisis, trying to figure out, does she do Echo? Does she not do Echo? And she was just singing the praises of Echo and says, it is such a wonderful program, and I wouldn't have any other time in my life specifically to do that.
Mhm.
She ended up not doing it, but that's still where I first heard of what Echo is. Yeah, and I heard that it wasn't necessarily something that you can just apply and automatically get in. It's a whole process and getting to know people. And so I was under the impression, oh, it's probably really difficult to get into. I myself also didn't have the greatest GPA because I had a really rough freshman year. So I had to build up from there. And you don't just go from getting a 2.5 to getting a 4.0 immediately. No,
No,
it's
no,
building
no.
on those skills. So I already knew that I wasn't going to have a GPA that was going to be impressive to that. And so I just kind of wrote it off for a while as no, that's not really an option for me. I need to look at something else to do because I thought I wouldn't have been competitive for that.
Sure.
So then we fast forward just a few months, and it's sometime at the start of my junior year, and my parents said, hey, there's a Notre Dame student who's working in our parish. This was, oh, I don't remember his last name. He was a Houston placement in Echo 18.
Noah?
Yeah, that was Noah. He was the one at St. Edward.
Hmm.
And so they said, would you ever consider doing Echo? I said, I'm not fit for it. And it's still because I had that whole GPA thing stuck in my head.
Sure.
Um, and so I just kind of wrote it off as no, that's not what I'm supposed to do. And I had full intention of going into the workforce and being a data analyst right off the bat. I working in applied and computational statistics. I loved the statistics side of things and wanted to go into that as my job. So I was starting to look at jobs and begin the application process for that during fall of my senior year when Tim O'Malley, who's one of the professors that we have in the ECHO program, who works with the MA, he teaches us art of catechesis. Um, he also teaches undergrads during the year, and I was taking his course called The Nuptial Mystery. So it's a class on basically the theology of marriage, and that it's a sign between Christ's marriage with the church and all of that. Um, and I eventually got an email sometime in December. So this is very close to the end of the semester from Scott Boyle, and he's the one who does the recruiting for Echo. For those who don't know Scott Boyle, um, so he said, "Hey, I got your name from Tim O'Malley that you would be really good for the Echo program." I was like, "Interesting, okay." So I reached out to Scott or replied to Scott and said, "Okay, I'd be willing to learn more about this. I'm under the impression that I wouldn't be a good fit, but I'd like to hear more about this." And whenever I brought up to Scott my concerns and what it was ultimately that I wanted to do work wise, he said the ECHO program actually would be something that would form you very well to be a force for even greater of a good, no matter where you're working, whether it's with the church in the long run or not with the church in the long run. Um, and it's already a struggle enough graduating from a Catholic university to go into the big secular world and have to keep up yourself with going to mass every single week and finding a parish, getting involved, and having that extra formation from Echo would strengthen me even more to already be used to doing that,
Right.
um, and already know what resources there are within the church to get more connected and keep living out my faith, but also have the confidence and support to evangelize to those around me, just living my life as a Christian, um, so that others may also know Christ just within a secular setting as well. So I heard that. I said, okay, so it would just delay what I want to do by 2 years. That's actually not that much time in the grand scheme of things. Um, so I considered a little bit more, and I turned in my final essay for that semester to Tim O'Malley. And whenever I got my grade back in the comments, um, Tim O'Malley yet again encouraged me personally in there to apply. He says, I really, really hope that you apply because I think you'll be a great fit. And I think it shows in I guess he saw a pastoral nature in, or a pastoral tone in one of my essays,
Hmm.
and he thought that would apply well to Echo. So I decided to listen to what he said, and I went from not planning to go to grad school whatsoever or do any sort of graduate program, because I just wanted to enter the workforce in the first half of December, to a month later I had turned in my application for Echo. So it was very much out of the blue. God just said, "Hey, you're going to do this." I
Mhm.
said, "Oh, okay." Sounds good. Yeah, yes, sir.
Yep.
So that's what I did. So I applied. At first, I was waitlisted. The Lord loves teaching me patience. I was waitlisted to undergrad at Notre Dame too. So there's yeah, he likes to play that game with me, but it's all a matter of just trust and looking on him in the long run. And it worked out, and I'm here now. So I don't attribute almost any of that to me. That's entirely just God doing his thing and me cooperating with it. So
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
that's how I ended up in Echo.
Yeah, no, it's good. None of us, I think for Echo, really, like, talking to people on here as well as just kind of in conversation and really getting to know all of our cohorts. I don't think anybody really had a straight arrow to Echo, if that makes sense. Like
I mean, that makes
there
sense.
was never like a plan from the get-go of like go to school, then do Echo, or go to work, go do like everybody has kind of had a I don't know, has kind of walked through a maze to get to Echo, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm sure it's going to be a maze on the other side as well. But very blessed that you are in the program. So um,
Thanks, Dale.
very grateful for you, Jen. Um,
Grateful for you too, Dale.
thank you. So what for you has been the best part about Echo? Your
Living in community, hands down. I don't know how common of an answer that is, but there's just something about I can come home and the people that I live with are from the get-go not strangers to me, because we got to know everyone in our larger community at Echo Summer first. But there's just something about coming home, no one there is a stranger, and I have something in common with them, that being my faith, where like I'm a people person. I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from being around people. So there's just something about knowing that if I do need that support, I can just go into a relatively public area of the house, like the living room, for example, and there will be someone who would be willing to pray for me if I needed prayers. Just coming downstairs saying, "Hey, can you please pray for me over XYZ thing that's going on?" And then oftentimes it's "Yeah, absolutely. Hey, do you need to talk about that?" That sort of thing. I automatically have support of people who can support me better than almost anybody else, like any secular housemate could, um, because they've got the Lord supporting them and strengthening them to listen, and they're also going to go pray about it afterwards. And I just think that's something where if I had a random roommate just because I needed rent to be cheaper in some other place, not related to Echo, then I don't know and don't think I would quite have that same kind of support. And so I'm just very comfortable. When I say comfortable, not so much in the I'm not growing sort of
right.
sense, but
I got
comfortable in
you.
the sense that I know that I'm supported. Um, and so we our community, I find, we get along pretty well.
Hmm.
We are friends with each other. Maybe not like best friends, but like that takes a while to happen anyway. So like we get along with each other well. We communicate well. We don't really take things personally. So if it's a matter of, "Hey, I need you to go do this chore because you haven't done it yet," it's not "I'm mad at you for not doing this." It's just "Hey, here's the fact. This needs to be done. Please do it because I cannot at this moment." Like it's just that simple sort of thing. Um, so it's a good support system to have, and I'm very grateful that part of Echo is having that support system, that community in place for you. And I find, like, yes, we have formation assistants, our EFAs. I love my EFA, Clarissa. Wonderful. I look forward to meeting with her every single month. She's just such a joy. And obviously, yes, she's the formation assistant. She helps in formation,
Yeah.
but I'd say just living in a community itself provides so much formation as well. So that's what I appreciate the most about Echo. That's coming from extrovert Jen. Um, but if I were to say my second favorite thing, it's probably honestly, I'd say the actual parish work and the studying theology are tied, with maybe studying theology a little higher.
Sure.
Um, but the fact that I have the resources provided by Echo to keep learning about my faith and keep learning about God. And the more I learn about God, the more I love God. So to keep growing in love of God at the expense of the Echo program, or provided rather by the MA and the Echo program, love that, especially that it's something I don't have to worry about what resources of mine, what expenses am I paying towards that? Is it really worth learning more at the expense of, I mean, not having as much money, having
Yeah.
to pay
Financial burden.
tuition?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, exactly. Thank you. The financial burden, but rather I can keep learning about the Lord and it's no cost to me.
Hmm.
It's like I have everything to gain, nothing to lose. It just seems obvious to me that I'm going to do that. Grow in love of Lord with no drawbacks. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. That. Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned it here before too, of like the best way to kind of explain the application process, if that's kind of what you're looking for, is it's kind of like fishing. You just gotta, or you just gotta cast your net and like, or cast your line, see if you get a bite. Like there's nothing lost of getting up, and throwing your net out there, or your line. Like,
Mhm,
but there is a patience that comes with it, right? So,
mhm.
um, no, that's really, really good. I did have a question for you as far as community, though, kind of jumping to another area. Because you and I have this experience in common. Totus Tuus also kind of gives you this
Mm.
community experience as well, obviously in a shorter term. But how did Totus Tuus prepare you for Echo, if at all?
Yeah, so totus tuus, do for those who don't know what
Go
totus
ahead,
tuus
talk
is,
about it.
yeah, it's a youth catechetical program. So I like to say it's vacation Bible school on steroids. That's what I like to say. And a very big part of Totus Tuus is instilling a love of Our Lady, the Blessed Mother, as well as just general concepts of our faith. So we talk, I think that there are different themes and different topics that we teach about each year. It rotates. The year that I did it, the we would focus on, you always have a set of mysteries of the rosary that you teach about. And the year that I did it, it was the luminous mysteries of the rosary. And the big topic of the year was prayer.
Mhm.
So we talked about the four main kinds of prayer, especially that you'd see in the Mass, which are adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, and supplication. We talked about that quite a bit. Um, what else? We talked each morning. The first session with the kids would be about the next mystery of the rosary of the day, because they go for a total of 5 days. There are five mysteries in each set of mysteries, so it only makes sense you start with the first one on Monday and are at the fifth one by Friday. um
In the right order.
in the right order. And we had something called covenant strings, that they're little pieces of yarn that are different colors that are somehow related to the what's it called, the mystery of the rosary. So baptism, when we taught about baptism, we would give the kids pieces of blue yarn that they would then tie around their wrists. And because a covenant, especially with God, is something that he's not going to break, and we ought to strive not to break it. They're not allowed to cut their strings until everything's over, and they're not allowed to break it off. If they do, obviously we give them a new one. We're not that cruel, but
I have a story for you after, but keep going.
okay. Gotcha. um but yeah, so the teams for Totus Tuus, the ones who lead it, it's a team of usually 4 people, 2 men, 2 women, and they're on each team. You have a leader, and then you have a co-leader. So that's like the vice president, basically. Um, and they always make sure that for your lead and co-lead, it's going to be complementary. So you'll never have 2 men in those positions. You'll never have 2 women in those positions. It will always be man and woman. So I was the co-lead for my team. A good friend, well, now good friend, Anthony, was the lead for the team. And when they put the teams together, they are very, they meaning are the people in charge of Totus Tuus, like training the teams. They are very deliberate about the teams that they put together, at least in the Diocese of Tulsa where I did it. So there's all night adoration happening where we're there praying for each other, and praying about what will this summer be. Lord, please give me strength to do all of this, especially on very little sleep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, very little sleep is a big part
You're
of
working
being
like
a student.
16-hour days
Yep.
yeah,
At least, yeah, it was usually more like 17 or 18-hour days.
exactly.
Yeah, yep.
John Biani sat in the confessional for 18 hours a day, so that's,
I'll call me John Vianney, I guess, but no,
yeah.
no, not, I'm not at that point of holiness yet. That's okay though.
Yeah.
But um, on these teams, they're very deliberate about who they put together, and they put people together so that they can be supported but also grow. So I had someone on my team who I felt bad. I kind of had to keep chiding him and chiding him and chiding him, not chiding so much, but more, hey, we need to go do this. Can you please not be on your phone right now? That sort of thing. And just encouraging him to be present with everyone around him. And so that was a sense of he's growing in what does it mean to be giving of myself to for others. And for me, it was an exercise in how do I not drive this guy crazy with me having to bring attention to, I need you to be present with people. And so it's a growth in patience for me, a growth in self gift for him. And it's no matter who's doing the growing or who's encouraging what, it's growth on both sides.
Yeah.
And that happens in pretty much all parts of the community, or of the team. I find that my team probably had the least number of problems, compared to the other teams. Whenever we got together at the mid-year retreat and did the review of how's everything going, what do we need to address as a team, I think my team was done with that first, not because we didn't put any effort to really examine. We totally did.
Mhm.
But by the time we were done, we still noticed that the other teams were still working through things. We're almost going, did we do something wrong? Uh,
We need
uh,
to kind of figure out more issues in the team, Yeah.
yeah, do we need to be looking for more issues? I think a lot of us were just not very confrontational, and we just kind of let things roll off our back most of the time. And so we don't hold anything against each other.
Sure.
So there was no ill will there, but there was still absolutely opportunity for growth for multiple people. So each day, or each week, we would go around as a team to a different parish, and we'd serve a different parish week to week. And while working for these parishes, putting on Vacation Bible School on steroids, we would be living with a host family. And one host family, there would usually be 2 host families. So one host family would host the women, so myself and my teammate Emily, and another set of another host family would host the men. So like the 2 guys,
Mhm.
and there would be one person on the team who has the car, who goes to pick up whoever wasn't with them already. So I had the car, so the women would go pick up the men, and then we'd drive to the parish each day. Um, and that really helped me improve on the skill of not necessarily needing to be at my own home whether it's in Maryland or Houston or wherever it was. But being happy wherever the Lord needs me to be at any given moment, because I'm going to be most at home and at peace with the people he wants me to be with at that time.
Mhm.
So that's definitely something that helped me transition well into Echo, because I did Echo Summer the following summer, and I was happy and at peace during Echo Summer with the people I was with, because God already trained me through Totus Tuus on a much smaller scale of being with whatever people I needed to be with. And because that's his will at that time and cooperating with it, I was at peace. Um, and so I'd say it's a lot easier to get along with community when you're not sleep deprived. So if there was any friction, a lot of it was because we're just tired and things are going to get on our nerves for Totus Tuus. Whereas here in the house, or just generally over Echo Summer, typically people have a little more sleep than most Totus Tuus missionaries have throughout the summer.
Yes.
So it's a lot easier to work through issues with a more level head sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
so it definitely helped with the introduction of how to work through issues with people that are given to you, and also recognizing that we are a gift to others as well. And
Right.
that works for the team, but also our own community here in the Diocese of Kalamazoo.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I've never thought of it that way, but that everything you just said is a very, very good way of explaining, like, going from Totus Tuus to Echo, or vice versa. I mean, um, granted, Totus Tuus is usually like a undergraduate college student summer job, so
Mhm.
hard for me to picture it being the other way, but because this is a grad program, but nonetheless, um, really, really good way of explaining that. Just the one thing I wanted to mention to you, because you had talked about, if kids forget their strings, um, we give them a new one, and we had this rule in our diocese that, of course, to your point, right, of like, we're not going to be cruel, but if you forgot your strings, like, you'd have to come in the middle and sing a silly song or something like
Oh,
that.
we did that too.
And I remember talking to one girl, she was in like first or second grade, and I was like, "Oh, you forgot your strings. Like, you got to come join us with this silly song." And she starts crying, and I was
Oh
like,
no.
"No, I'm like a 20-year-old guy, and I'm like, oh, I'm making this like 5-year-old, 6, 7-year-old cry, and a girl cry nonetheless." And I was like, "Okay, you can have my strings." So I give her my strings, and then all of a sudden I'm like, "Guys, I forgot my strings." I was the only one who forgot my strings. So I had to sing in the middle by myself. And I don't
Mm,
have a great singing voice, so I just really like amped it up a level and just did a
yeah.
high pitch funny type thing because that's all I could sell. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no. So point is, if you do Totus Tuus, don't make the first and second graders cry. Okay.
I definitely made a first grader cry, but it was not related to covenant strings. I was in there. I was the floater for that week. It was a smaller parish. And so when we have a floater, you have three of the team members with the three different age groups, and then one person who will teach one class of the day in a different grade level each
Okay.
time. So I was the floater for that week. And I went into the first and second grade. We were learning about Jesus being tempted in the desert. And what is temptation? Temptation itself is not a sin, but rather it encourages us to sin if we're not careful about it. Um, and so we did a little activity of, is this temptation or an act, is this sin or not sin? And I was like different temptation things and how people responded to them. And they were actually pretty good at responding to that. And then as a little art exercise, we said, all right, draw Jesus in the desert saying or resisting temptation from the devil.
Mhm.
And there was a drawing that brought me such joy, but she didn't understand that it brought me joy. And her name was Ruby, and Ruby brought me wanted to show me what she drew, and it's Jesus very clearly in the desert, and there's the devil that's kind of like flying over him, and he and the devil just says, "Do it." and it's a little word bubble that says do it, and Jesus's word bubble is just says no. So the sheer simplicity that she drew that got the point across
Very
just
clearly,
made
I mean,
it made me laugh so hard. And she thought that I was laughing because I thought the drawing was bad, and she started crying. I felt so bad. Emily was in the room at the time, and she had to go comfort her and say, "It's okay. Grown-ups laugh for really weird reasons sometimes."
you
But no, I was laughing because it brought me such joy, and it was so simple, and it made me laugh, not because it was bad, but because it's just the simplicity and just the childlike nature of what she drew. It's wonderful.
and yeah, that's so good. Um, Another story I can tell you later. Don't want to tell it here, but I had a 3-year-old, not a third grader, but a 3-year-old. I had her flip me off 2 or 3 times in the course of one class, and by the second or third time, I was like, "You know what you're doing?" And she's like, "I don't know what that means. I don't know." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know." And I told mom, and she's like, "Yeah, she knows." So, uh, but yeah, good times. So just kind of going back to Echo, like,
Yeah, sorry.
no, you're good. You're totally good. What advice would you give to somebody, kind of thinking about Echo? Obviously, we just got the 21, so now we're kind of looking at the 22s, but any advice that you would give?
Um, the advice that I had, which might sound a little harsh, but just hear me out. 2 years is not a lot of time. It's really not. And so, for example, I wanted to go directly into the workforce and start doing data work. And I'm realizing that pausing for 2 years to do echo in the grand scheme of things is not, it's not a big deal. And so I'm going, okay, well, I can give 2 years of my life to Christ and do what it is he wants me to do. And who's to say that I can't work on professional development within Echo to make myself even more desirable to the jobs that I want to do whenever I get out. And so having that support for that professional development, Echo does a very good job of supporting its students in professional development, in being able to go to conferences, in being able to go to particular trainings at the diocesan level. And it gives us plenty of trainings just during Echo Summer and workshops as well.
You open yourself
Um,
up to this with just the University of Notre Dame alone. I don't want to. I'm not plugging it to plug it, but like you also open yourself up to this massive network.
mhm.
So I just wanted to throw that in there, but go ahead.
Yeah, and so 2 years, it might sound like a long time, but those who are in university or were in high school at any point, once you got to your sophomore year, you said, "How am I already a junior? What?"
Mhm.
So it always goes by a lot faster than one might think, especially as we're getting older. And so to devote that time to learning who all of these really wonderful people are who are serving the church and giving 2 years of your life to the church, it's I really think that you really should take the time to do it. I think it will be very fruitful. I've noticed plenty of fruit from this. That the Lord is definitely he takes what you give him and multiplies it 100-fold. And so, if you're willing to give him so much as 2 years of your life because you love him and it's what he's asking you to do, then he's going to multiply that so greatly. And there will be so much good, whether it's good for the souls in purgatory or good for you here on earth, or so much as giving you a fast track to heaven. I don't know. I don't know what any of this is going to look like, but it is in fact doing so much good for someone who needs it. Um, and we're planting seeds, or we're tilling soil, we're planting seeds. Maybe we're the ones watering, but the Lord is using us, and we just need to be willing to say yes to him. And 2 years of our lives is not that much time.
No, that's true. That's a good point. It may seem daunting, but I think to all of your credit, if if you're nervous about that fact of, well, I gotta kind of make this sacrifice, I have to put off my job. Like giving making that sacrifice for that period of time is also just helping you grow as a person in
Mhm.
learning how to make sacrifices. Talked about it
Mhm.
here. I know TOB is very important to both of us, and I don't think we have enough time to go into that. So maybe like over the summer we can kind of do another episode and we can talk about TOB stuff because I'd love to do some more conversations from South Bend. I mentioned that in the last conversation. I'll be making a video on that tomorrow, um, but it that's a very important value or lesson to value is what I'm trying to say in marriage and prepping for that of like how can I make these sacrifices for these other people even if it is this short period of time or a long period of time. And so I think Echo's been a really wonderful experience for that. Just kind of adding to your point. So yeah, 2 years is not long in the grand scheme of things. Um, but since you're kind of done, we're wrapping up here in about 3 weeks, right? From year one, basically. So for you, are there thoughts about maybe what after Echo is starting to maybe look like a little bit?
I'm still attracted to the data side of things. So what I tell people is immediately after Echo, what I want to do is go into some firm somewhere or a business somewhere that has a data analysis or data science department and really work up my analysis and data modeling skills. Heck, I'd even be open to machine learning, that sort of thing, because I have training with that and experience with that from just undergrad. And ultimately, after I get my skills up on that and I know it like the back of my hand, I want to exit secular workforce and go into working for the Center for Applied Research of the Apostolate, so CARA over in Georgetown. It's they're the ones who recently, I think it was sometime in 2023, released a more in-depth study of that study from Pew Research Center that said that 70% of Catholics don't believe in the true presence.
Yeah.
They did their own survey and got a little bit more specific with the questions and allowed people opportunities to answer in their own words what it is they believe. And they actually found that it's much closer to 50% rather than 70%
Well, that's good.
who don't believe.
Yeah,
Um,
it's better.
and
I'm not gonna say that's good, but it's better.
yeah, it's exactly. Um, but they also broke down that of those who consistently go to mass each Sunday, or heck, even at least once a month, the number is much closer to about like 70% do believe,
Yeah.
which is much better.
Mhm.
We want to get that as close to 100% as possible.
Sure.
Heck, even 100% if we can, if it is possible, God willing. But I also am interested in the question of what are different factors that go into vocations, for example. And I want to formulate a survey that seminarians and priests across the country can take that pulls together as many factors as possible to find are there any trends that are there any things that they share that would point to, hey, if we see these kinds of things happening within a parish or within a person's life, what's the likelihood that they have a vocation? And if they are high likelihood for vocation, then should we be encouraging them even more to pursue that, like that sort of thing? I think data can tell us a lot about it. Obviously, people are deeper than just pure numbers, so there's always that to keep in mind.
Sure.
But statistics is it's mathematical, it's a way of knowing, it's a way of learning about God's creation and understanding the world that he made, and that's what I want to do.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, or even working for USCCB in the data and survey side of things, I would be willing to do that as well.
Cool. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. I mean, even to your point, like people are people, and that goes much deeper than numbers. But people are also, uh, we like our habits, we like our patterns, and so if you're kind of seeing a pattern of these for example, and I'm not saying this is definitely the case, but like the parishes that have a pastor that lasts longer than a 3-year cycle, right? If you have pastors of a 10-year cycle or a 12-year um, cycle may not be the right word, but like
Placement.
thank you. Yeah, like a 10 to 12-year placement. And I don't know where these numbers are, and again, I don't know where these numbers are or if they even exist, but I've heard from people in larger dioceses, archdioceses rather, because I come from a very small diocese, um, small in numbers, that is, that the longer you have a pastor there building that relationship, the more vocations or at least potential seminarians that you have, guys that go into formation, which speaking from somebody who's gone in formation is extremely helpful even if you leave, and so it's going to help you in your discernment of whatever that next thing is. And so I've heard that the longer the pastor's there and things, the stability, right? And it kind of comes back to this theme of fatherhood. So but again, that's another conversation for another day. But that sounds really exciting of you wanting to study that type of stuff and kind of try to read the patterns. But um great. So last thing I want to do with you, I just want to ask you a few questions, and I just want your
All right.
fastest response as possible, and then we'll kind of
Okay.
wrap things up. All right.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
All right. Let's do it. Best place to relax at Notre Dame.
Ooh. I'm gonna say Remick Hall.
Cool. Favorite food at Notre Dame?
Mm, probably Modern Market, either that or Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
Um, yeah, let's just go with Chick-fil-A. Easy answer.
Great. Favorite author?
Don't really have one. But let's say for this Giussani. I like Giussani.
If you do, talk to Jess and Connor because they're
I'm aware.
sure you have. Um, Favorite instrument that you've played before?
Saxophone,
An instrument that you want to learn?
accordion.
Favorite place to be in Maryland?
Um, just generally with my friends, but probably St. John's Parish, St. John Regis Catholic Church in Hollywood, Maryland.
Okay. What diocese is that? I know
That's
Arch.
Archdiocese of Washington.
Okay, you're towards that territory. Okay. Um, Current favorite gospel.
John.
Current favorite scripture passage.
Philippians 6:11. Or it was like 6 through 11 or something like that. It's the every knee shall bend at the name of Jesus. That whole passage.
Perfect. Um, Three more. Favorite hobby.
Playing saxophone.
Perfect. Or now three more. Best toast to his high school night activity.
Oh, amoeba. Definitely. That's yeah.
Cool. Favorite food in Texas.
Ooh. Street tacos.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Winter, fall, spring, or summer.
Winter. Totally winter.
Now, being more specific here, Indiana, Michigan winter or Texas winter?
Definitely Indiana, Michigan.
Maryland winter, actually, because Maryland.
Maryland winter is it's gotten more mild over the years, but definitely Indiana, Michigan.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again, Jen, for being here. This has been great to
Thank
see.
you for having me, Dale.
Of
It
course,
has been fun.
yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's
I hope you have good luck with other people who come on here as well. I think what you're doing is very good for echo discernment. So thank you for what you're doing, Dale.
I appreciate that. And Tim knows about it now, Timmy P,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
so he's going to be looking at some of our content at some point. So so hopefully we get some good reviews on that, and hopefully at some point we can expand. Now that we have the 21s, my hope is that we can start to over the summer kind of get them in there, and get a group before they've done echo and just kind of ask a different set of questions. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
but it's been great. So anyway, thank you again, Jen, and great to see you guys. Be on the lookout for episode 15. This episode will be dropping soon. I think we're filming this on the 2nd of May, so probably on the 3rd, so the Friday, tomorrow, or today in the sense of you're watching it right now. So Anyway, God bless. Have a great day.